to you some of the notable emerging crime trends that we are seeing in the financial sector to help both with prevention and detection. One, the center is observing the use of Zambian signatories of bank accounts by foreign-controlled entities to mask beneficial ownership. We are increasingly seeing the use of shell companies for short-term operations to avoid detection. What do I mean? You would have a company that's created only to perform one transaction. When that transaction is performed, you'll never see any activity on this particular corporate. Cyber crimes enabled by employees of financial institutions. This calls for an improvement in the Know Your Employee procedures in the banking sector. We see the increased use of mobile wallets to introduce large sums of cash into the financial system. We see the increased use of mobile agent wallets to evade holding or transaction thresholds by individuals. There are suspicious transaction reports now being reported by virtual asset service providers. By my recollection, we now have just about 15 such reports reported. We are increasingly seeing the use of cross-border mobile money scams involving Zambian nationals. All these issues, they call for a little more vigilance when transacting to just ensure that any detection of such vices are well reported to the center.
So the theme for this year's symposium is the role of the public and private sector in ensuring positive outcomes from country mutual evaluations. So the theme is befitting as it builds on last year's inaugural Banking Industry Symposium that focused on trends and typologies from a financial crime perspective. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the choice of the theme of this year was partly driven by the increased global focus on assessing the status of different jurisdictions' commitment to the Financial Action Task Force, which is the FATF recommendations. It is also driven by the impending second round, money laundering, terrorism financing, and proliferation financing national risk assessment. The global economy continues to be adversely impacted by increasing financial crimes, which include money laundering, terrorism financing, and the proliferation financing that is there in this world. So these vices continue to threaten the integrity of the financial sector. It also threatens to destabilize the financial sector in many ways. If left unchecked, this will aid more criminal activities such as theft, fraud, drug trafficking, and human trafficking that are basically ravaging our societies. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, to note that the perpetrators of financial crimes are continually adapting their methods to exploit the existing weaknesses that are there in the financial system.
As you know, the issues of AML are shrouded in opaqueness, and therefore, the purpose of this symposium is to share best practices and to learn from each other so that we can effectively protect our country and ensure that we adhere to applicable laws and comply with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations and the FIZ reporting requirements. The Bankers Association of Zambia was created to represent the interests of registered and licensed commercial banks operating in Zambia. It is currently comprising of 15 commercial banks and it aims to represent the rights and interests of the banking sector and champion industry growth and development through innovation, thought leadership, research, and as an association, we have updated our Code of Ethics and Banking Practice in 2020, and Principle 12 of this document highlights our commitment to fighting money laundering, terrorism financing, and proliferation financing in order to comply fully with the spirit of all applicable legislation, regulations, guidelines, policies of all ML, TF, and PF in Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Zambia has embarked on the second National Risk Assessment exercise involving banking, insurance, designated non-financial businesses, and professionals, virtual assets, service providers, and capital market sectors in preparation for the mutual evaluation of the Financial Action Task Force scheduled to take place in 2027. This time around, I am guided that the 2027 mutual evaluation will be based on the revised 2022 assessment and methodology in order to assess our compliance with the FATF recommendations. You will recall that the last mutual assessment for Zambia was conducted on June 25th to the 6th of July in 2018, and the report was then issued in 2019. In 2019, the report highlighted some positive reviews and areas of improvement. The top findings of the 2019 report were as follows. Firstly, corruption, then tax evasion, theft, fraud, and lastly, drug trafficking. Considering the impact of a negative mutual evaluation report, which can lead to being grey-listed, the association members felt strongly that we need to bring together actors in the public and private sector so that we can have an honest conversation on the effectiveness of AML-PF systems and to better prepare ourselves for the next mutual evaluation.
My role today is very simple. It's just to share some of the innovations that Stanbic is doing, which is just part of the many innovations that other financial institutions are doing, as was earlier mentioned by the Chief Executive of the bank. So I will take you through the innovation segment, which highlights particularly the prominent and influential persons portal. So it's interesting that this is a homegrown solution which was developed by in-house compliance teams and our enterprise data office teams. And it was mainly to assist in 4 areas. The first one was the capturing of our prominent and influential persons' names. We will note later on in the discussions, I think, some of the challenges that come through in having a comprehensive list and a screening tool to which we can refer when we are doing our screening capability. The second reason why this was developed is to enable the screening of names for PIP identification, and this allows the financial institution to apply necessary measures for management of risks associated with prominent and influential persons. Thirdly, it enables the capturing of third-party entities and the screening of names for third-party verification. So this allows to have a repository of de-risked clients and related parties to be screened against in the event that we have a return of such de-risked.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this symposium provides a unique opportunity for stakeholders in the AML-CFT ecosystem to come together, share knowledge, and discuss the future of AML-CFT efforts in Zambia. In addition, the symposium provides an opportunity for participants from supervised entities to have personal engagements with regulators and AML-CFT experts who are here with us today. I believe that these personal engagements will not only allow both public and private sector stakeholders to gain a deeper appreciation of what they should do to achieve effective AML-CFT outcomes for the country, and the DG FIC has just talked about the importance of effectiveness, but also offer opportunities for networking, which are key to continued knowledge exchanges going forward. Dear invited guests, under Section 5 of the Bank of Zambia Act of 2022, the broad function of the Bank of Zambia is to formulate and implement monetary and supervisory policies that are directed at achieving and maintaining price stability and financial stability. The BOS also, of course, has other functions such as issuing and managing our currency, regulating the foreign exchange market, but also supervising payment system providers. Under the financial stability pillar, one of the specific functions of the bank, which is relevant for this symposium, is to license, regulate, and supervise financial and payment service providers. Further, the Financial Intelligence Center Act extends the supervisory responsibilities of the Bank of Zambia to include monitoring and ensuring that its licensees comply with their AML-CFT obligations under the Financial Intelligence Center Act. Ladies and gentlemen, and I think as has been indicated by CEO Mwindwa, we are living in a challenging global and domestic economic environment, characterized by adverse weather conditions, which are significantly influenced by climate change now, geopolitical developments, as well as a host of domestic financial challenges, particularly as we begin to extend financial inclusion and the increasing use of technology in our financial sectors. And this has given rise to fraud and financial crimes, amongst others, as has been ably outlined already by the previous speakers. Now, these developments create novel and detrimental risks, including money laundering and terrorist financing. At a narrow level, ML and TF, the money laundering and terrorist financing, can undermine the integrity and dent the reputation of a financial service provider, impede its funding, distort its customer relationships, and in a worst-case scenario, threaten its very existence.
The focus today is to build on our collaborative commitment to promoting the highest standards of anti-money laundering and combating the finance of terrorism and proliferation financing. As such, we gather here not merely as stakeholders, but as architects of safer and more transparent financial future for Zambia. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Finance and National Planning has the mandate to ensure a stable macroeconomic environment conducive for private sector investment. We therefore uphold our commitment to excellence, professionalism, integrity, transparency, accountability, and fiscal sustainability. In order to ensure this, we are committed to spearheading the fight against money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. As government, we are proud to see Stanbic Bank, in collaboration with the Bankers of Association of Zambia, continuing in their leadership of promoting the highest standards of anti-money laundering and combating terrorism and proliferation financing. Distinguished invited guests, building on the success of the inaugural event, the symposium is dedicated to exploring the pivotal roles that both the public and private sector stakeholders play in ensuring positive outcomes for our country. The symposium offers an important forum for those within anti-money laundering and combating terrorism and proliferation financing ecosystem to come together, exchange knowledge, and shape the future of combating financial crime efforts in Zambia. For Stanbic Bank, it provides a valuable opportunity to deepen its commitment to anti-money laundering and combating terrorism and proliferation financing by engaging directly with regulators, experts, and fellow supervised entities. Ladies and gentlemen, adhering to anti-money laundering and combating terrorism and proliferation financing regulation is not only about protecting individual institutions from potential abuse, but also about safeguarding the integrity and stability of Zambia's financial system as a whole. The insights and the information gathering through these collaborative efforts are essential for the effective investigation and prosecution of financial crimes, highlighting the ongoing need for cooperation and also continuous knowledge sharing within the industry. The government of Zambia, led by His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, is committed to accelerating economic growth that will spur job creation in a sustainable manner. As government, we have demonstrated our commitment to pursue an aggressive development agenda that positively impacts the country. We therefore commend Stanbic Bank and the Bankers Association of Zambia for their efforts in organizing this symposium, and we look forward to seeing positive results in this year's events. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, the government is proud of the proactive stance taken by financial institutions in addressing these critical issues. We believe that through continued collaboration and dedication, we can strengthen our financial system and contribute to the overall development of our nation. With these few remarks, I thank you for your attention and officially declare the second banking symposium open. God bless you all.
Thank you so much for joining us on Financial Insights today. My name is Chimwemwe Lungu and I am your host. Today, we are at Intercontinental Hotel Lusaka, where Stanbic Bank has hosted the second edition of the Banking Industry Symposium. I am joined by Mr. Kapalu, who is the Director General, FIZ. So I'm kindly going to ask him to fully introduce himself. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Financial Insights.
You're welcome, Madam. So Clement Kapalu, Director General at the FIZ. We are grateful to be invited to this symposium by Stanbic Bank. It's an opportunity for us to share what's happening at the center. As a regulator in the AML field, we take advantage of every opportunity that we have to create awareness among stakeholders, and that's just what we are here to do.
You're coming just out straight from a panel, from a presentation, sir. What are some of the key highlights that you brought out from your presentation that the general public can really benefit from out there?
In two parts. One, we were discussing a little bit about the financial crime trends that we are seeing, sharing with financial institutions so that they can improve their level of detection of these crimes. But secondly, it was more about what's coming up in terms of future developments, what new systems the center is putting in place, the status of the national risk assessment, the upcoming mutual evaluation for Zambia and the role of the banking sector, and the general level of preparedness that we should have as a country.
So what are some of the measures that you are putting in place as an organization to help financial institutions combat the issue of money laundering and also financing of money laundering?
It starts with a national risk assessment of which the center is coordinating. You can't combat what you don't understand. So we have included the banking sector in the national risk assessment so that together we have a common understanding of what the threats are, we identify them, put in place mitigating measures on a risk-informed basis.
How prevalent are the issues of money laundering, sir?
They are quite prevalent, especially given the results of the first national risk assessment. What changes is usually the modus operandi, but in terms of the issues, the predicate offenses, corruption, tax evasion, drug trafficking, those are always there, and the proceeds
are then laundered. But what has changed now, I believe, is the coordination between the competent authorities to try and curb this vice, and I think progress is being made.
Kindly run us through, what is this symposium all about, and what was the main essence of Stanbic Bank coming up with such an auspicious event that brings together key industry players in the financial sector together? What was the main essence of coming up with the conference?
Well, thank you so much for that question, Chimwemwe. This is actually the second symposium. We had the first symposium last year around this time in September 2023. So essentially it's bringing together industry experts in terms of the financial sector to talk about financial crime and other things that impact the financial services which we all provide. So in this essence, this is the second year we're partnering with the Bankers Association of Zambia and ourselves. And we're looking at topics such as the FIC, financial crime, transactions, anti-bribery and corruption, money laundering, and so on and so on. You know, these things can have a negative impact on the economy when you have illicit flows coming into the country. So as Stanbic Bank, we have actually taken the lead to have this conference in order that we can have all the key players in one room. That's your DEC, your ACC, your FIC, your banks, so that we can actually sit together and find solutions to some of these financial crimes, which are more and more getting more and more sophisticated, as you know. Standard Bank, being the biggest bank in Africa, we have a lot to offer because in different geographies we're able to tackle different things. So we're very, very excited to share many, many insights with our colleagues and also learn from them. Other banks on how they're operating from West Africa to East Africa and so on and so on, because it's really an Africa problem, these illicit flows. And so we're quite excited to create that platform. Being one of the brainchilds of Standard Bank and Stanbic Bank Zambia, we're very, very proud that we've had such an amazing turnout. As you've seen, all the banks are in attendance, all the major regulators are in attendance, including the Bank of Zambia, of course. And then, of course, you've got your law enforcement agencies, your ACCs, your DECs, and so on. They're all here as well. So it's quite a gathering of great minds, great thoughts. And at the end of the day, we really want Zambia to be an honest economy. We don't want to be get a reputation as a rogue nation, because when you do have illicit flows, you may think you're doing well, but then that money is not genuine, and in the end, it can affect your whole economy and how it runs. So we're very, very happy to have this gathering, and we're happy to have financial insights here to help us disseminate this information.
What is the impact of financial crimes, and how does it impact your provision of services as a bank and also financial institutions in Zambia? What impact does financial crimes do have in the provision of products and services to your customers out there?
Yeah, well, you know, we're a custodian of our customers' money. So sometimes when you allow funds which don't have a genuine source, that's why you always see the banks asking for KYC, know your customer. We just want to understand who you are and your source of funds. Because if you have a lot of illicit funds, you may look like you have genuine money in the bank, but in fact, it's actually not genuine money. And then it can be taken out of the bank, and then it can be ring-fenced by law enforcement agencies. And then you develop a reputation of being a rogue kind of bank, a bank which just deals with anybody just to make money. And as a responsible corporate citizen, Stanbic Bank is very much standing with the people of Zambia to ensure that we have proper flows of money into our economy and out of the economy. Even if we don't have much, if a circumstance where money is not there, it's better we earn it honestly than bringing in a lot of illicit money, dollars. You'll be surprised. I mean, there have been instances when people bring $100,000 in cash and want to deposit it and clean it in your bank. So we're trying to highlight and say, look, this is wrong. We have internal training with our staff. If anyone does come with money without proper sources, we do report that to the FIC, to the DEC, and so on and so on. So it's really about, you know, a healthy banking environment. So we're just trying to avoid that whole illegal funds coming into the country and being used and cleaned in Zambia. Because once the money enters the bank, it's essentially clean.
You gave a very, very enlightening presentation today in the morning. Just kindly highlight some of the highlights and also some of the key take-homes that the general public can really benefit from the presentation that you gave today.
Thank you. So basically the presentation was about how we can enhance our screening capability. So In English, basic English, we're talking about how are we better able to know our customers as they join the bank. So what was being presented is some of the tools and some of the technologies that are being developed just to enhance that capability. So it basically means when you do come as a customer, we're able to know you better, how we can then serve you better. Also, as you may know, we do have a responsibility in terms of screening, in terms of KYC. So what was also presented was our ability to identify whether a particular individual or entity is what is known as a politically influential person. That used to be called politically exposed persons, but we're not just dealing with that. We are talking about influential persons. You may ask, why do we need to know that? We need to know that because you do note that part of the regulations say that for certain categories, we just need to know a little more so that we'll be able to know how best to serve you, how best to know which controls to use. And it's basically just to enhance our product offering.
Why was it important for Stanbic Bank to come together with such a symposium that brings together key industry players in the financial sector to have conversations?
So this is the second installment, actually, of the symposium. Last year, Chimwemwe, remember that we had a good symposium that looked at financial crime as well as other sort of predicate offenses that do happen. Essentially, I think what we have as Stanbic coming in with the second installment is looking at the national risk assessment. That's one of the motivations for this one. But it's also, I think, an important one to have at this point in time, with where the world is going in terms of just ensuring that we cover our bases in terms of anti-money laundering, terrorism financing and proliferation prevention. And basically what we are looking at as a financial institution is to make sure that we talk about these things. The terms I've used are not everyday terms. So if they're not everyday terms, we want key members of staff within the financial institutions to understand those terms. The next one is also to ensure that the technical people within the financial institutions are basically sharpening each other. So within the financial institutions and across the breadth of the financial institutions and banks that are represented here. By the way, we have all the banks in the sector. In the room, we also have law enforcement agencies. We also have MNOs, for example, and essentially if you get the technical people in those organizations coming through to discuss matters of anti-money laundering, proliferation, financing, and terrorism financing, we essentially then have a sharpened industry that can help reduce some of these things becoming a difficulty later in terms of what we do as a country. So the issues with all these vices that I've spoken about is that they undermine the financial stability of the country. So if you're undermining the financial stability of the country, then economic growth is impacted. So you need money or flow of money to be done in a legal way. So reducing some of the vices and ensuring that teams are equipped with the knowledge of ensuring that we can defend the financial system from those vices is key for the bank. So essentially, I think the second installment will help us as a country also do what is known as the national risk assessment that is basically being looked at from the Ministry of Finance perspective. To make sure that we are ready for that assessment that's coming in about 3 years now. I think it will be in 2027.